Hello and welcome to another Wednesday Total Soccer Show. I am Daryl Grove and I'm joined by a man whose new personal hero is whoever runs Borussia Mönchengladbach's social media. It's Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello. I was wondering what you were going to go with. If it was going to be like a German team, that wouldn't have made much sense. An American team would have been too vague of a reference. You did good there.
Can you explain what's happened, Taylor? Because I'm guessing most people won't have seen what Borussia Mönchengladbach did.
Yes. So on the social medias, I guess somebody posted a thing. I'm assuming it was a Scottish bar.
It was either Scottish or English.
Yeah.
I can tell you that just from sort of the style of chalkboard that was out front of this pub.
So, on a chalkboard out front of a pub, somebody had written, on TV or, on the TVs tonight, and it was Celtic v. Borussia München, and they kept misspelling it. They Mun and then MUN and all these different things, and then they crossed it out 3 times and then just wrote a German team. Was the joke. So then I guess Gladbach,
which is a great joke,
yeah,
right,
it
for
is.
whoever runs that pub. Good
and
work.
then Gladbach picked up on it and I guess changed their Twitter handle to a German team. And then after defeating Celtic away at Celtic,
2-0,
posted on Facebook just the gif of Walter White demanding that the gentleman he's talking to, no spoilers, say his name. And it was say my name, and then the hashtag was a German team.
Yeah. Brilliant. Say my name, no one is around you, say Borussia Mönchengladbach.
Yeah.
But that's not the game we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Barcelona 4, Manchester City 0.
I just like so much about who you choose to be.
So this was kind of an epic beatdown.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
In many, many ways.
Yeah, and it could have been way worse, in fact.
It's a hat-trick for Leo Messi. It's a bonus goal for Neymar, who also managed to miss a penalty kick.
And that's what I mean, yeah.
It could have absolutely
I mean, this was
been worse.
the joint worst loss of Pep Guardiola's managerial career. He's lost 4-0 to Madrid before, I believe. Right. But, again, it could have easily been 5-0 if Neymar hits that penalty. Mm-hmm. If Jeremy Mathieu doesn't also get a red card, then it could have been 5-6, 7-0. Who knows? Because it looked like City had quit, and it looked like Barcelona were kind of enjoying embarrassing their old coach.
Yep, and I feel like what's been going on every time Guardiola goes back to the Camp Nou is he goes back to face something that he basically perfected, and then Luis Enrique has just tweaked a little bit to make it more modern and sends in a less good version of his 2009 Barcelona team.
Yeah.
Be it Bayern or be it Manchester City. Right?
Yeah.
And leaves with a red bum.
Yes. And so this time, I mean, it seems like he approached it with a more practical approach. So he drops Sergio.
Relatively, because it's more practical for Guardiola. And the other coach, this wasn't practical.
True. But he drops Sergio Aguero to add more midfield depth because then you don't have that kind of flat 4-4-2 or something like that. You get more numbers in midfield. You get pacier attackers up top. But then as the Fox Soccer guys pointed out at halftime, Fox Sports guys, at halftime, that City were doing a very good job of waiting until Ter Stegen would try to play the ball out of the back off of goal kicks or set pieces, and then they would put that press on, and they kept forcing Barcelona into kicking it out of bounds. Yeah. And that seemed like it was working, but then there were those moments of breakdown, and maybe the field was a little bit too slippery, and that's what allows Barcelona to take the lead going into the half.
And before we get into specific goals, the thing that I think was the difference in this game was more Barcelona's defensive work, which I think will go unnoticed. But the thing was, every time Barcelona had the ball, they were still able to move it around pretty quickly, pretty confidently, make progress or keep possession, right?
Maybe. Whereas, I think I'll interject to say I think that is a product of the second half because even when the second half starts, Man City are still putting that press on. And I think it's easy to kind of forget that it was sort of working in the first half because of what happened in the second half. Yeah. So it seems like City were rattling them a little bit. It was just that Barcelona, I think, were able to play out of it a few times, but also keep their shape and stay disciplined enough to not let anything really come through.
Okay, I agree with that. But by contrast, what I really want to get at is the way that when Manchester City have the ball, they would try to move it quickly. Barcelona would be up on them. They would have an even more sort of aggressive press, even not necessarily all the way up the field, but at least in midfield, where you got things like Sergio Busquets stepping and winning the ball off people. And I feel like too many Man City moves would break down. Right? They really only had Raheem Sterling getting some pace and getting out wide, Kevin De Bruyne getting some pace and getting out wide. That was kind of all that was working for Manchester City. Anytime they tried to play short, passing through the middle, Barcelona shut it down.
It felt a little bit like the Man City players had been warned by Pep Guardiola. You know how good these Barcelona players are. Yeah. Do not give them a chance. Do not turn the ball over cheaply. And so you kept seeing players kind of know what they wanted to do. The one that stays one that stays with me most readily is Otamendi. A couple different times we would see him see the pass, and then he would just take another touch just to make sure. But if you take another touch, you take a couple more seconds, Barcelona are going to spot what you're doing and close it down. So then he ends up having to kick it long or kick it over the top. And it just felt like there were a few little delays there that seemed to originate with like uncertainty and a little bit of fear.
And it created a lot of odd decisions. And I think that's maybe the headline, odd decisions, to go into talking about these goals.
Sure.
Okay, so the first goal is in the 17th minute. That's bearing in mind, if you think about the first half being really not that even because Barcelona go ahead early, right? It starts because Messi tries to take on two players, gets tackled, but like I said, with the defensive pressure coming, Mascherano's immediately there to make like a second tackle, win the ball back just as Kolarov thinks he's got it. Then Messi dribbles basically straight at the heart of Man City, and then Man City players start falling over.
Yeah, and that's the big part of it, is that I think that everybody kind of switches off because they assume they've got it shut down. They assumed
there's loads of us. He can't possibly get through.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm assuming that they thought that Fernandinho would be there to kind of clear that ball out. No problem. Oh, he fell, and then he slipped. Everybody kind of takes, and again, that extra half second to a second to react to that. And the only person who doesn't is Leo Messi. He's already sprinting through, lashes onto the ball that's loose in the box, and then I'm going to say embarrasses Claudio Bravo. Because even when he picks it up
twice, right?
Yeah, because even when he picks up, the announcer says, like, surely he has to score. And so in that situation, like, it's always going to be, if the keeper does anything, then it's well done because it's Leo Messi.
Yeah.
But Messi fakes once, makes Bravo dive, fakes again, makes Bravo dive again, and then takes it around him and scores. So it's just like the double dive that he forces him into. That's what makes it such a tricky little goal.
Here's how great that is. Normally, we'd be praising the keeper for the second dive. We talked about Hugo Lloris's core strength and how he was able to get that up, but get moving quickly for Spurs. Bravo does make the first dive, doesn't get it, and he's able to make a second dive. Normally, that's enough, and it's impressive. But Messi is a step above that. It's
the tight control that he has on that ball, that he knows exactly how to take that extra step, that extra touch to get a little bit of separation, so then Bravo has to dive again. But it's not enough that then he kills his angle or takes it out of bounds or then has to cut back and try to find somebody running through. He touches it just enough that he creates like a confusion for Bravo, but then it's under control so he can get to it right away and put it in the back of the net.
Also, how many times has Leo Messi dribbled one-on-one against Claudio Bravo in Barcelona practice? Especially if, like, because Ter Stegen was the first choice keeper for the most part, right?
Yeah.
So you might have had a lot of, like, first 11 Barcelona would play second 11 Barcelona, and he'd be going at Claudio Bravo.
Well, this play...
I'm saying he knows how to make him dive. He's done it so many times.
Oh, I know what you mean. But it makes me wonder also if, like, maybe this made Claudio Bravo flashback to when he was in training with Barcelona, and he was like, oh yeah, I used to play for this team. Maybe I am part of this team. And that's where a friend of the show, Dan Fontaine, tweeted us to ask if maybe Claudio Bravo had like a momentary switch off and just thought he was a Barcelona player, and that's why in the second half he passes the ball straight to Luis Suarez, which leads to his red card ejection.
Should we talk about this moment then? Because this is where the entire game changes, right? This is where, Barca don't go 2-0 up immediately because of this. Like, it's not a goal, but it is like this is where it all falls apart.
It may as well have been a goal. So it's essentially, it is a Digne who subbed on. He clears it out, and in clearing it out, he makes contact with Zabaleta. More on that in a moment. But the ball drops in. Claudio Bravo comes off his line. He's about 30, 35 yards from goal.
Yep. It's 10 yards outside the box.
And he's under pressure from Suarez. That hesitation is intended.
Not enough pressure to cause an error.
No.
Right?
No, but it's basically he has a couple options to pass to. The one he opts to go for, I think, is Fernandinho in the middle of the field. But what he ends up doing is rather than hitting it to Fernandinho's feet with power, he kind of like taps it to Luis Suarez, who really isn't blocking it off. He doesn't make a sudden move to intercept. It's just sort of is such a bad pass from Bravo that it goes right to Suarez, and then Suarez settles, tries the chip, and Bravo has to do something, so he jumps up and handballs it out of his box. Denial of a goal-scoring opportunity.
So we had this, and sent off, right? So we had this conversation in studio. I thought maybe he saved it with his hands, which obviously you can't do outside of the box.
Yeah.
Because it's handling. He saved it with his hands just out of instinct because he's a goalkeeper and he sees the shot going, so he reaches it up. You think instead that he basically knew that was going in and sort of in a Luis Suarez 2010 World Cup kind of way, deliberately saves it, takes the red card to stop a goal.
I mean, it could be both, but I think it's just he knows how far out he is, and he knows that this goal is going in. He knows it's going to be...
We tracked it, right? It did look pretty much on target.
I mean, and that is also... I will say that it's also a credit to Luis Suarez because I'm not going to be able to do what he does because he collects that ball, gets it out from underneath him, and then gets that volley away so that it's going in under pressure.
Yeah.
It's well done. But I think Bravo has enough time to know what he's doing and to realize the consequences of his actions and just think, like, I'll take it if it means that it stays a 1-0 gap and maybe we can make something happen.
Because in some ways this is better, I know this is very dodgy territory, than what Suarez did to Ghana in 2010, where he saved it on the line, and he's obviously a field player, so he can't do that.
Yep.
Took a penalty kick and a red card, knowing that was probably a better situation than actually conceding a goal. But in that case, there's still a penalty kick to be taken, which I think was missed, right? In this situation, Bravo knows there's no goal, so it's still 1-0, even though he's sent off. So I can see if he has made that calculation on his Chilean calculator, that I can see why that seems worth doing.
Yeah, and I think that you can do that type of calculation that quickly to say, I made a mistake, but I can at least make up for it so we're not 2-0 down. But if you look at the overall ramifications, because as I said, Digne clears that ball, there's contact between him and Zabaleta. I don't think it's a foul, but Zabaleta pulls up, you see him limping, he takes off his shoe, and there's a lot of blood coming out of that foot.
More than I like to see when I'm watching TV in the afternoon.
And that it's bleeding through what I assume has to be a very expensive sock that probably has like blood absorption technology.
Is that the thing you're most concerned with?
Well, no, it's just that if you see that much blood in a thing that's probably designed to like constrict and hold things in place, it means he's bleeding badly.
It means there's a lot more underneath.
Which means that he is subbed off.
We only saw the tip of the Bloodberg.
Yes, exactly. Weird. Then you have the red card to Claudio Bravo, which means you have to make a substitution.
Yeah.
You have Caballero come on, which means you have to bring a field player on.
What do they do? I can't remember.
They take off Nolito and they bring on Caballero.
And actually, I think this was a mistake from Guardiola. They put Otamendi at right back and had Kolarov join Stones at centre back. And I think Kolarov from that point doesn't do a good job.
No.
And Stones definitely doesn't do a good job.
And Otamendi definitely doesn't do a good job either. Yeah, and then you have Clichy come on.
Clichy was okay?
Yeah, and then Clichy comes on for Zabaleta. So then in that space, you have a red card for your goalkeeper, you use 2 subs, and you're a man down.
And you reorganize your defense.
And you're still losing 1-0.
Right.
So it maybe isn't that great of a decision in retrospect, and it's certainly not a great decision to come off your line and then pass it straight to an opponent.
So I feel like this is one of those times where we don't need to talk through every single goal, but we do need to talk about that goal where it's Gundogan plays it back and Stones lets it go.
Yeah.
And I don't understand what happened.
We've watched it, I'm going to say again, 30 times at least.
Sorry, Suarez squares it to Messi after that, right? And that is the second goal?
Yes, and then Suarez runs away to celebrate as though he scored before Messi even scores. Yes, that's that goal.
I'm sorry I've got it wrong. The second goal is where Messi beats Kolarov, right? He sends Kolarov the wrong way, turns him around, and then finds the tiniest gap between Kolarov and the near post and fires it in.
Right.
Much better goal than I think it got credit for.
Yeah, I think so. But then this is the third goal, where it's Suarez squares it and Messi finishes.
Killer goal, right?
Messi gets his hat-trick. I think the second one, I think probably the red card was the killer, and we've watched it a bunch of times. I still cannot tell you what happens in this play. The Gundogan is under pressure, and I think maybe Stones just assumes he's either going to play it out of bounds or play it out wide or kick it up the field, so he's not ready for it. But he does this sort of, as Gundogan drops it to Stones, Stones kind of like does that like square up jump where he like, it's like, I think he jumps into it like, I think he's getting ready to get set to clear the ball, not expecting that pass to come when it does. So I think he's like getting set, then getting ready to clear it, and as he's getting set, the ball goes behind him. So I still don't know what he's doing or what Gundogan's doing. Either way, it's bad.
Under pressure, sees a teammate, plays what I think is a perfectly good pass, like to John Stones' right foot, and then John Stones instead turns into a statue.
Well, I mean,
it's like,
I would say
one of the weeping angels.
I would say the
reference you won't get.
I would not. The counterpoint to that is that if it's a perfect pass, it goes to his right foot if he's standing there. So that he is standing there and it goes to his right means that it's not that good of a pass because you still have to move to get to it. So
I would prefer a ball slightly to my right so I can step into it.
Well, that's now you're talking about your preferences, and you're not talking about a situation in which you're getting a ball dumped to you while you have 3 players running straight at you.
Yeah,
it changes things a little bit. Regardless, it's just complete chaos, and I think it points to the larger issue for Man City in this game, which is we tend to see Pep Guardiola's teams so organized, so disciplined, so aware of what they're doing, and as this game progressed, really you started to see them just consistently, no one really knew what they were doing, no one really taking ownership of the defense, no one really trying to complete passes anymore, and in the end conceding 4 goals for it.
Do you still get the feeling that there's no plan B? Like when Fernandinho slips, it's in the very first goal, right? He looks like he's about to clear it, and so all Man City players are going upfield, ready to like start this counter-attack that they've probably got planned, right? But when he slips and that doesn't happen, it's like everybody freezes and Otamendi freezes because it's almost like they're not prepared for the alternative situation where they don't have the ball and are in control.
Yeah, I guess so. But I would say what
I was going to say is that's like a tiny metaphor that applies to the whole game. Is that when they're on the back foot and they've got a man down and they're all disorganized, they're like, well, this isn't what we planned for. We planned to like have possession and move the ball around.
Yeah, but I guess. But I think that's just. I mean, obviously it is, but it's like a little bit of an oversimplification because even in that sequence, I didn't really see them break. I saw them all waiting to see what would happen, and then when Fernandinho slips, they all just kind of stand there like, well, that wasn't supposed to happen.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
And that's what I'm more surprised by, is that it just seems like there was a consistent across-the-board hesitation and slowness for Man City, that it was players not quite stepping, it was Otamendi coming across to cover, but being like, nah, like as players skipped around him. And it just seemed...
he lost Messi for that first goal, right?
Yeah. I mean, so it just felt like... I don't even know if it was like a plan B situation. It just felt like Man City were like too up for it, but also too scared about the ramifications of what would happen if the game didn't go their way.
Maybe overthought it, second-guessed themselves, got nervous.
I think so. Yeah.
The final thing I want to, because we didn't talk too much about it, is the Sergio Aguero, the decision not to start him. How do you... It's easy to say that was the wrong decision now that they've lost 4-0, but do you see any justification for that decision? Because he instead went with Nolito, De Bruyne and Sterling. And when I saw it, it made sense to me. It was kind of like, okay, you got 3 attacking midfielders. They're all going to... They can like interchange and move around and cause some trouble, but also all of them are capable of dropping back into midfield in a way that Sergio Aguero is not capable of.
I think I get it from the perspective of you have those guys, they all like to play on the break, they're all very fast, they can all like move around and they're technically proficient.
But so Sergio Aguero, right?
Well, I think the difference would be maybe that those 3 guys are good at playing on the break. So if you're trying to get numbers back so you can like win the ball back and then punish Barcelona, those players make sense. But Barcelona also weren't like overcommitting numbers. They were keeping a very fluid defensive shape. Sometimes it was a back 3, sometimes it was a back 4.
Yeah.
And I think...
But it was never a back 2 with both fullbacks pushed forward,
this
right?
is true.
It was always Mascherano probably staying home alongside.
And so with that comes like the idea that I don't think that having those front 3 that can interchange and play the ball quickly, it's really that effective anymore against that. Yeah. And so with that in mind,
they
I
never
guess...
had sustained possession either, right?
Yeah, true. Yeah. But I would say then with hindsight being what it is, you probably should have started Aguero. But you didn't start him. He didn't warm up from the reports I saw.
Yeah, that's interesting, right?
So it points to either maybe he wasn't fully fit or maybe there's been some disagreement. Who knows? Is
there a chance those two things are related? Because I was reading a story about how he went and played for Argentina in the international break, got a groin strain, tried to keep playing, got a calf strain, tried to keep playing, probably shouldn't have played against Paraguay, missed that penalty against Paraguay. It was an all-round miserable experience, right? Then he plays against Everton at the weekend. I think he came off the bench.
He did.
Played against Everton at the weekend, also missed a penalty.
Misses the second of 2 penalties that City missed.
Yeah, De Bruyne missed the first one. So it might be a thing where he's like not fully fit, and then when he's on the field, he's underperforming. I mean, obviously Aguero's bar is high, right? So it's easy for him to underperform by just having a normal performance for someone else. But missing those penalties might be a sign of like he's not quite on it, so maybe this isn't quite the game for him.
Yeah, so that makes sense as well. And then it's tough to fault Guardiola for making that swap.
Speaking of faulting Guardiola, he got asked in the press conference afterwards about his decision to always ask his goalkeeper to play out of the back. It's obviously, it's kind of a good question to ask given what Claudio Bravo just did, right? Because another goalkeeper maybe heads that clear, boots it clear, or maybe just doesn't come out that far to begin with and lets his defender handle. Because that's the one thing I thought, that probably one of his defenders could have handled it instead.
Maybe. I think another defender smashes it clear. Another goalkeeper, excuse me.
Right. Joe Hart puts his foot through that thing.
And honestly, now that you bring that up, maybe...
It lands on Le Ramblers.
Maybe that's part of it, is that like he comes out to clear it, and then thinks, like, I'm not supposed to clear this ball. I'm supposed to pass the ball. That's what I've been told. I'm being serious. Like, I really do wonder if maybe Bravo comes out and then thinks, like, no, wait, the mentality is we pass the ball. And so as you're getting ready to clear it, you all of a sudden change your mind. And you've been in that situation when you're like, I'm going to shoot and I'm going to cross. Oh, that was weird. It went straight out of bounds. And in this case, it went straight to Suarez. Yeah. So there we go. So maybe that's it. Who knows?
My take on Bravo, after what I've seen this season, is that he is more confident with the ball than he is gifted. Do you know what I mean? Like if he was an outfield player in your pickup game, he would be the guy that dribbles too much and always thinks he's going to beat 5 people, and eventually, like, he beats 2 people and then loses the ball. Because how many times have we seen him? I can't remember who it was against. It was against Man United. He tried that big cut and ended up sliding into Wayne Rooney because he cut too hard and the ball got away from him. Like, if he actually had good feet, good technique in the way that I would say Manuel Neuer does, that pass actually connects to Fernandinho, doesn't go to Suarez's feet. So I think he tries things that his talent can't back up.
Yeah,
right?
that could be. I mean, and then you do wonder then, maybe Joe Hart could have done that. Maybe Joe Hart was equally capable of passing that to the opposition, is all I'm saying.
I mean, he could have clumsily given that to Suarez, right? But I just think Bravo's like, his brain is cashing or writing checks that his feet can't cash.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes sense.
But again, so I'll start this with the Guardiola quote. Guardiola's saying, this is how I'm always going to play.
Yep. To my dying day. Is that what he said?
Which is quite the commitment.
Dramatic, but yeah. All right. Do what you do, man. Again, it's still like, it does sort of, with another manager, that has a different approach entirely. Like, if Harry Redknapp or Sam Allardyce has been, accused of doing the same thing that's not working, and they're like, I'm doing it for the rest of my life, people would mock that. And when it's Guardiola, it's sort of like, okay, he's sticking to his guns, his principle. But it goes back to what we talked about with that Man United game, where it's like, or the Tottenham game, where they kept kind of knowing what City wanted to do and putting them under pressure, and it did not work for City, it did work for Tottenham. To continue to stick with something out of principle when the other team knows what you're doing and works to cut that off, not a great idea.
That's how you end up on the losing side of history.
Exactly.
Right? All right, so...
also classified as crazy.
Right. Barcelona are top of their group.
Yep.
9 points. I believe Man City are second with 4, Mönchengladbach 3, Celtic down the bottom there.
With 1, I do believe.
But that 1 was against Man City.
This is true.
It turns out. But thanks to Kolo Touré, no points against Borussia Mönchengladbach. Right. He was unfortunately at fault for both goals.
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh, Kolo.
Little bit.
All right. Also on today's show, Mr. Rockwell, we are sponsored by Fuchi today, the engineered soccer rebounder.
Yes, sir. It combines soccer and squash for a good time.
And we've been having a good time playing Fuchi, but we've been playing the Fuchi Battle, which is 1v1, co-host v co-host, in a fight to the death.
Yep. Except we're both still alive. But generally speaking, yes, fight to the death.
But we have managed to get ourselves, luckily, looked into a situation where we're going to have some of our teammates on Saturday night, and we're going to be able to play a game of round Fuchi, which is a very different well, not very different, but it's basically the same thing, except you line up to play youngest to oldest, so we'll find out how old everybody is when we on Saturday night. I'm worried that I'll be quite near the back of the line. Right?
I think with that team, you'll be middle of the line.
Middle of the line? Yeah. Okay. And then essentially, it's your turn, you play it against the net, then you get out of the way, the next person plays it against the net. If you miss, you lose a life or you're out, depending on how many lives you have to start with. So we're going to try a whole new Fuchi thing.
Yeah, we're going to try to catch it. It's going to be at night, so it's going to be under the lights.
It's going to be floodlit Fuchi.
Oh boy, it's going to be dramatic.
We should contact the Fuchi guys with that marketing idea.
Floodlit Fuchi? It's another version, I like that one. So it'll be nice and bright for me to embarrass myself. Perfect.
So we're expecting to record that on Saturday night. We'll have the video for you sometime next week. In the meantime, if you would like to play your own game of Fuchi, you're going to have to get yourself a Fuchi rebounder.
You sure are.
You can do that at www.playfuchi.com. Futchi is how you spell that. And if you use the Total Soccer discount code, you will get 15% off.
That's Total Soccer, all one word, all lowercase, to get that 15% discount.
And thank you to Fuchi for sponsoring today's episode. We love having Fuchi as a sponsor.
And thank you for giving us another way to be competitive at what should be a relaxed barbecue bonfire. Yeah.
I'm actually kind of looking forward to the banter when 10 plus guys play Fuchi.
Could be ruthless, it could be fun. We'll find out.
It'll be both.
Yeah.
It'll be both. And we'll bleep anything out if we have to. Also on today's show, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 scouting reports from the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network. Why so many all of a sudden?
Because people love reporting on their scouts.
We've just been in action. All right. I'm going to have to turn the light on here. It's got dark in the room.
You're going to have to turn your light on the right way.
Yeah, there we go. Got it. All right. So, would you like to go first or shall I?
Sure. Up first comes from Ed DeHoratius. I think you know him.
Oh, yeah.
Scouting Federico Bernardeschi, the 22-year-old winger for Fiorentina. Italy beat Macedonia 3-2 in a World Cup qualifier on October 9th with a corner kick assist from Bernardeschi on the first goal in the 23rd minute.
All right. International assist.
Yep. Violination.com, which is the, I'm assuming, Fiorentina-related website, described it as, quote, about as perfect a delivery as has ever existed, end quote.
I'm going to go ahead and say that's definitely a Fiorentina website.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, up next, Eric Radist is scouting Jonathan Lecco, the 17-year-old forward for West Brom, who I was very excited about because I think he may be playing for the England youth teams. Eric says that Lecco has been a consistent member of the West Brom matchday squad, but has only played twice, once as an 82nd minute sub and once as an 88th minute sub. He has been playing for the West Brom under-23 squad, but Eric thinks a loan move to a championship side in January could be good for the youngster. Get him in action.
Joel Tolbert up next, scouting Chris Goslin, 16-year-old homegrown player for Atlanta United.
Oh, yeah, he was the second signing after Andrew Carlton. Yeah.
Correct. Goslin has been a regular on the U.S. youth rosters since the age of 14 and is currently playing with the U-17 national team. He's been playing with Atlanta's Development Academy as well, and Joel speculates that he could potentially get some time with Charleston next season to see how he does against older seasoned professionals.
I keep forgetting this. Every time I saw, so we saw Andrew Carlton play for Charleston last season. We knew he was a homegrown player signed by Atlanta.
Right.
Then we heard the news of Goslin signing the homegrown deal with Atlanta. And because there aren't many players on the Atlanta roster right now, I just assumed that meant these guys will be playing MLS next season.
Yeah.
But obviously, once you just sort of do the expansion draft and they make some more signings, then all of a sudden these guys are not going to be anywhere near the first team, right?
I mean, we don't know. Andrew Carlton was very, very good when we saw him play.
But they're not going to start 16-year-olds in their inaugural season,
it seems unlikely. It seems unlikely.
And I'm just saying, I just keep looking at the roster and thinking, oh yeah, those guys will play.
Yep.
Because if you pick an 11, you've only got 5 players then.
Yeah. It's a good point.
Up next, we have a report from David Hultengren, who's scouting Enes Ünal, the 19-year-old striker for FC Twente and Turkey. Isn't Ünal on loan from Man City?
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, okay. So David says he was waiting to email until Enes stopped scoring, but that hasn't happened yet. He has 8 goals in 8 games for FC Twente, easy for me to say. David adds that he isn't certain that it's due to Unal's ability or the apparent fact that Eredivisie defences seem to hemorrhage goals.
Could be either one.
It's both. It's maybe a little from column A, a little from column B.
Up next, Carl Getz, scouting Zach Clough, the 21-year-old English striker for Bolton. Clough returned from an injury to score a brace in Bolton's 2-0 victory over Oldham, marking the first and second time that he has scored since April.
All right, welcome back, Zach Clough. Final scouting report is from Ryland Arnold, who is scouting Ben Woodburn, the 17-year-old winger/forward for Liverpool that I know people are very, very, very excited about. Ryland says...
I saw a message board of Liverpool supporters saying he's already better than Marcus Rashford.
I saw that too. That's...
incorrect.
It's incorrect because he hasn't played in the Premier League yet, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Ryland says...
Or in the Euros.
Woodburn celebrated his 17th birthday last week by signing his first pro contract, a 3-year deal, with Liverpool FC. He's been playing well for the U23 side, and there is speculation that the new contract means he might soon start getting minutes in Liverpool's cup games. Okay, so keep your eyes out for Ben Woodburn. If you would like to join the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network and help support the show, you can do so at totalsoccershow.com/subscribe.
Yep.
We appreciate each and every subscriber because it helps us to keep making more Total Soccer shows.
We appreciate all subscribers, including our most recent subscribers.
Yeah.
So thank you to Scott Eli, or Ellie, whichever you want to go with, Brendan Leonard, Ross W. Brown, who resubscribed after his subscription lapsed.
Yeah, not his fault though. I think it's one of those weird PayPal things where like, if your card expires, you need to replace your card and reactivate your subscription.
We are not the one cancelling your subscription.
Yes. So if you see that email, please log into PayPal, update your details, and then you can restart your subscription. We really appreciate the people who re-up by doing that. So thank you to Ross W. Brown.
Re-up has a different connotation in certain situations, but here, yes, we do appreciate that. Also, thanks to Trey Allen and Lucas Miller. We got your itchy feet request. We're on it, so keep an eye on your inbox.
Yeah, I wrote that in the notes because I saw Lucas Miller sent an itchy and scratchy feet request.
Ooh. Oh, boy.
So, yeah, Lucas, we'll get you your player very soon.
That's a murderous request, potentially.
And once again, if you would like to join the Scouting Network or just support the show, you go to totalsoccershow.com/subscribe.
Yeah, you do.
All right, Taylor, we are almost out of here for today after doing 2 TSSs.
This is true.
You'll be on goalmouth duty, so Thursday morning you'll get a goalmouth from Taylor, short, sharp, snappy soccer news in 5 minutes or less.
Yes.
And you can subscribe via iTunes or other places to the goalmouth to receive every episode every morning.
Correct.
Friday's Total Soccer Show. We'll be back on Friday with a new Total Soccer Show. We'll be answering listener questions and looking ahead to all the weekend action. All right, Taylor, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening. We'll talk to you again on Friday when we'll be answering listener questions.